Okay, folks, good evening and welcome to the June General Membership Meeting. We just want to welcome everyone that's watching on Facebook Live. We appreciate your attendance. It's a little bit of a different situation recently with COVID-19, the coronavirus, preventing us from meeting as a group. So we do miss you being here. However, we are glad you have been able to join us virtually. We just concluded the portion of our meeting that we typically do, the housekeeping, as I like to call it. We've read the minutes and the financials, and now we're moving on to this regular part of our meeting. Our union staff is in attendance physically. They're behind the camera, and they are actually working diligently monitoring Facebook Live, your comments and your questions this evening. So make sure you check in, say hello, so that we know you're there. And also, this is a way that we can get you registered for tonight's raffle. You can just say, hey, I'm Joe from store whatever, and we will...
Say your last name.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, definitely communicate with our staff. We're monitoring Facebook Live. We will have a question and answer period towards the end of the meeting. So we're going to gather all of the questions that come in, and they're going to be cataloged and sent up front here so that we can re-ask the questions that were asked and answer them, okay?
Just please keep in mind, we're going to answer as many questions as we can, but we're not going to answer them via text on the feed. In many cases, we go back the next day and we look at the questions on the feed. We're going to try to answer them for you on this broadcast. Sorry.
That's okay, thank you. And as usual, we have some important information for you, so please pay attention. We've got some breaking news today that President Newell will get into. I'm sure many of you have heard, but you know, it's we're going to try and cover everything, and we're going to attempt to answer as many questions as possible, any and all of them. And if for some reason we don't get to your question tonight, we will definitely respond within the next 24 hours on it. We have come across sometimes people coming in a little bit later on the meeting and asking a question that was already asked and answered. So if you come in late, please rewatch this, and hopefully by virtue of you seeing that you'll be able to see the beginning of the meeting, okay? I just want to make a couple of announcements. Effective June 1st, our local 1500 field staff is back 100%. Obviously, when the state was shut down by Governor Cuomo, our building was shut for a period of time, and our reps were working remotely, but within 2 weeks we were deemed essential, our local, and we were able to get back out on the road. So we started our reps back on a limited basis, where they were working 2 days in the field. I think we were doing about 6 hours per day. We went from 2 days to 3 days to 4 days. We graduated it back every couple of weeks, and effective June 1st, we are back 100%. They'll be working 4 days in the field and 1 day in the office, so they can clean up whatever clerical paperwork that they have. And in our office building now, we're temperature testing everyone that enters the building, staff and visitors as well. So if you do have an occasion to come to our building, expect to get your temperature taken. It's a no-touch forehead scan, and we're just trying to ensure not only the health of our employees and their families, but the membership that's out there as well. So we're just trying to do our part in keeping everyone healthy. We've been working pretty diligently with locals 338 and 342. Typically, we work together because we share a lot of the stores, whether it's Stop and Shop or it's Aristides in the city. 342 is in King Cullen with us. So one way, shape, or form, for the most part, we share stores with our brethren from 338 and 342. And over the past couple of months, we've been working basically on a daily basis with them, whether it's securing PPE or working on hazard pay and hazard pay extensions with our employers. We have come together as a very cohesive group. We've always worked together, and it's especially during the pandemic, we've been able to basically become a team, all right? I think one of the union presidents said that we're working lockstep with each other. So when we communicate with one of the company officials as a group, we've got 3 union presidents talking to them, and it's a very powerful conversation. I'm gonna pass it over to you. Alan.
Okay. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. I do have some reports for you, and obviously we've been dealing with a lot of difficulties throughout this pandemic, making sure that not only are we providing you with the most updates that we can, but also trying to get as much of the protective measures put in place, as Joe was explaining. But we also do have some pretty normal business to also inform you of. Recently, we hired 2 new staffers in our office, for our office staff, to better serve you. And just to keep you up to date, these office staffers will be cross-trained in every possible way. The one thing that we are finding with the pandemic is that that's becoming more of a necessity, no matter what's happening. We're finding it that people should have more skill set. They should be well-versed in every area. That way we can provide you a better service. So we look forward to having them come on, and we'll definitely let you know, any other updates of that kind. Moving on to organizing, as you know that our organizing staff works out of field work, trying to get new members and ensuring that we continue to build the base for the union. We have also put out an ad for director of organizing, which we are now starting the process to interview, and we'll keep you posted on that as well. Moving on to other news, we also have an addition that we're really excited about, and it's also tied into organizing. We have a new assistant to the Region 1 director. Her name is Karina Lopez, and just to introduce her a little bit, and especially if she's watching, we're really excited to have you. We look forward to working with you. Karina comes with vast knowledge of organizing, and she's been involved in so many different areas of the UFCW. She's coming from Washington, D.C., so we're really looking forward to working with her. As I said, she does have a lot of knowledge. Okay, so forgive us for that. These are just that. They're difficult. So thank you for, can you hear us now?
If we can get a response.
Can we get a response on here?
Anyone?
No sound now. What did we miss? Greg Finch, I can hear. What was that stuff?
No.
Nothing, volume, no.
Wait, Tracy says yes, she can hear.
All right, talk directly into it.
Better now?
Better.
Yeah, just give me a second.
Okay. So we were just going through some routine updates, and forgive me for the repetition for those that did hear. We were just making some announcements about some staff additions to the union. So let's start with the addition of 2 office staffers to better serve you. I mentioned earlier that during this pandemic, we've learned how more and more we need to be better versed in different areas. So we're trying to bring on more skilled staff, and therefore they'll be able to service you better and answer your questions and take care of you. Moving on, we did put out an ad for an organizing director, a person that would be overseeing the organizing staff and trying to build our union. So please be on the lookout for that, as we will be interviewing for that position and looking to build our union, as I said before. Really exciting news for our union is that someone directly from Washington, D.C. will be joining our area, and that would be the new Region 1 Executive Assistant to the Director, Karina Lopez. Karina comes with vast knowledge of organizing, and we're really excited to work with her. If Karina is watching, we'd like to welcome her to our region, or welcome her back. And as I said, we look forward to working with her. getting into more routine things that are more relevant to you guys now. You may have seen that last month we were able to acquire 2 or 3 trailer loads of sanitizer, and that was through work with the governor's office. Look, the bottom line is what we wanted you to know is that our union continues to work to acquire, whether it's PPE or benefits, and President Newell's going to get into more details about hazard pay. The one message that I do, and I hope you can hear me when I say this, please be patient. Be patient with us. While we're bargaining every day, keep in mind, every company's different. They're different entities. They bargain with us individually. They're not bargaining as a group. So when we put out a post on social media about an extension, because it is an extension of the benefit. It's not an expiration. It just means that it's going to that day. So please bear with us as we prolong that pay period. If you have any questions, if you have any concerns, we really appreciate if you reach out to us directly. Putting it on social media is, we understand it's an outlet for you to communicate with us, but it's also not the only way to communicate with the union. And sometimes it's not the most direct way to communicate with the union. So please reach out to your reps, you have your shop stewards, and you also have the union's phone number. Feel free to visit our website to get that type of information, and we'll be glad to get back to you.
Okay. Terry, do you want to put that thing, is it on me right now? Okay. So now that everyone's met our Secretary Treasurer, who's a bit of a low talker, I hear you, I hope you can hear what I have to say. So, and by the way, for the handful of you that still can't, I don't know how to fix your IT issues, so I apologize. Perhaps tomorrow, if you go back and you rewatch it, or later you rewatch it, you'll be able to hear it. But there are the majority of people that are saying they can hear everything that's being said at this point, so that leads me to believe there may be an issue on your end. So we apologize for the technical difficulty. Let me start by first saying that tonight, for the first time in a long time, not with us is Rhonda Nelson, who officially retired after more than 40 years on the local 1500 staff as of 5/31 of this year. In addition, Terry Quinones is also retiring on July 31st of this year and is on special assignment between now and July 31st. So we want to wish both women an unbelievable retirement, thank them for their years of service, collectively more than 80, both as members and staff members of the local union. And we wish them nothing but a long and healthy retirement with their families, and thank you again for all of your service. In Terry's case, she resigned from the executive board effective 5/31 as a vice president, a position she held for many, many years. And I'm proud to report that tonight the executive board elected Greg Pasquale, the delegate from Dutchess County, to replace Terry on the board to fill her unexpired term. And Greg was unanimously elected to serve as a vice president for the balance of this term. This has been a pretty crazy month. As many of you know, Tony stepped down in November, but he stayed on as a special advisor to the president, or senior advisor. I never remember. He's senior, but whatever it is. So he's been nice enough to assist me and to assist the local in being appointed, and I've been lucky enough to fill Tony's seat as a vice president on the Long Island Federation of Labor, the New York City Central Labor Council, and the New York State AFL-CIO. All of those central labor bodies welcomed me to take Tony's place and sit as a VP. Those are all positions that are very important to the local, being able to continue to have relationships with all of the affiliates in all industries out there. You never know what industry we would need to assist us in any one of our potential contract fights or an issue with a site fight going forward. So it's an honor to serve on all of those boards and work with some of the most powerful labor leaders, not only in New York, but in the country. I was also appointed to the labor and workforce sector for the mayor of New York City, Bill de Blasio. That committee has more to do with trying to assist the city in reopening as it goes through the stages and the sectors. But what it's done is it's given us an opportunity to present some of the difficulties that our essential workers, our supermarket workers, are dealing with on a daily basis, both in enforcement, mask enforcement, PPE availability, sanitizer, crowd control, and we have a direct line to the mayor of New York and his respective staffers as it relates to getting these messages out, getting problem areas investigated, and ensuring that our members have the protection that they not only deserve, but that they need just to get home safely every day. The union has money invested in the stock market. I mean, that's a pretty obvious situation. And although the stock market had a pretty negative turn in the end of the first quarter of 2020, I'm proud to report that we met with our financial advisor, and all union investments are actually now back to either even or in plus territory from January 1st of 2020. Considering the tip that the market took and the short amount of time since it started its recovery, we're very proud that our investors made the best of the opportunity to buy whatever it is that they bought at a low price and get us back even still some 2,000 plus points away from the high, and we're already back in positive territory. That's a good thing both for our members and certainly for us as it relates to operations and providing services. So let's talk about the bomb that dropped this morning. It's odd because the last number of meetings we've had, both executive board and general membership, we've talked about the Stop and Shop King Cullen merger, and we've talked about the fact that the FTC was involved, and we talked about the fact that stores needed to be divested, and there was always a lot more questions than there was answers. And I think people were extremely frustrated after a period of time. I think people started to distrust any and all information they got, while others latched onto and believed every piece of information they got, no matter who it was. The one thing I can say beyond a reasonable doubt is I was not expecting the call that I got this morning. And quite frankly, when the phone rang and I found out that it was both employers on the phone, my presumption was that the deal had been approved. Imagine my surprise when I found out that the deal is dead. And look, for a long period of time, we've told our membership that there was a possibility this deal could fall through, or that it wouldn't be completed, that it potentially wouldn't be approved by the FTC. You know, I firmly believe that after the last 6 or 7 months that I thought it would be consummated. I felt both companies were, forgive the poker reference, but I felt they were pot committed. They had spent enough time and enough energy trying to make this happen that I just felt it was unavoidable, and that eventually it would be approved by the FTC and that everything would commence. I think not expecting COVID and the impact that COVID-19 has had on the grocery industry, on the supply industry, and quite honestly, just on the world as a whole, I think that's created a whole nother set of hurdles. So I would venture to say there are more than likely a dozen reasons that this merger didn't go through or this acquisition is now officially over, but none of them really matter. I mean, what matters is that King Cullen, Wild by Nature, and the King Cullen Pharmacy are still completely functional. They're still open and operating. There's 34 stores collectively. And if you read the notice that King Cullen put out today, there's a tone in that notice that they put out to their employees and to their customers. And the tone says they're back in business. That's a breath of fresh air for us as the representative, but it's got to be a breath of fresh air to the employees that work for King Cullen. You know, for the better part of a year and a half, this company has been readying itself for a sale to Stop and Shop. And Stop and Shop's company has been on pause for the most part as to their expansion plans and their renovation plans. And the King Cullen company has not replaced key associates. They haven't potentially made some of the better business decisions that a long-term operator would have made because they've been patiently waiting for this deal to consummate. Based on a couple of conversations today, I tend to believe that your company's back in the game and they're back to play. Listen, they can prove me wrong. I don't have any reason to believe that they will, but it wouldn't be the first time today I was shocked. So I would tell you that I did speak with Brian Cullen. I did speak with Bob Jandovich, the head of human resources, both of whom assured me that King Cullen wants to get the job done. They're back in the business as an operator, and they're going to start making the changes necessary to run their company and run it potentially better than it's been run in the last number of years. And that's a godsend to us. It's a godsend to the 2,400 members that we represent there. And we're proud to continue to do business with King Cullen, Wild by Nature, and the King Cullen Pharmacy for as long as they're in business. To the Stop and Shop company, look, whatever reason you made to go through with this, and then whatever reasons that led to the demise of this acquisition, and it's a bilateral decision. It wasn't made unilaterally by one company based on our understanding. I assume they're gonna get back in business and they're gonna potentially start renovating their stores and doing the upgrades that they had on the books already. You know, you're in no better or worse shape. The one thing it does is give you the opportunity in your stores to focus on fixing them and getting them right, as opposed to transitioning some number of King Cullen and Wild by Nature stores and converting them to Stop and Shop. So maybe at the end of the day, this is a better thing for the industry and a better thing for both companies, but time will tell. The one thing I can assure you is I firmly believed this morning that I was going to be reporting our continued belief that the deal would close and be consummated in the third quarter. Everything we've been told says that the FTC never approved the deal, but they also never rejected the deal. There were time constraints, there were issues that are certainly not known by us, and as I said earlier, they don't have to be known by us. We just know the reality. We have an open relationship with the company, and we have contracts that go through 2022, and we plan on enforcing them every day. So to King Cullen and all of its members, we can finally stop talking about when is it going to happen, because it's not. And that's really all we can say about it. There's no other specifics. As if you have questions, obviously the staff will bring them to us a little bit later, and I'll see if I can answer as many of those questions as I possibly can. The one thing I can tell you that we've done now with Stop and Shop no longer being involved in this acquisition, we've asked Stop and Shop to start taking a look at some of the stores that Fairway has that aren't sold yet. As we sit here now, there are still some 5 Fairway stores that are unspoken for in our jurisdiction. And if we can get Stop and Shop to take a look at them where they couldn't take a look at them before because of the FTC decision that was pending at King Cullen, maybe we're able to save another couple of locations and keep a few hundred more local 1,500 families working, as opposed to on the unemployment line. We've been feverishly trying to find buyers for some of these stores, and to be perfectly honest, it's landlords that are the problem. Fairway, through its bankruptcy and its private equity acquisitions, signed a lot of leases that were oppressive to the operation and are definitely outside market conditions. These are not things that are easy to control. Landlords have the ability to enforce the current lease if somebody wants to take the seat. For us, if the store goes dark, the jobs are going to be lost. So we're trying to get people to pick these stores up and have a continuation for those members, that they can protect the benefits, protect their wages, protect their paid time off, and try to give them the opportunity to maintain their jobs in this industry. If the store goes dark for a period of time, we're starting from ground zero, and we may end up in a fight where somebody tries not to recognize Local 1500. So we've been fighting with 3 different landlords to try to find good union buyers. We have interest in some of these stores. They just can't come to long-term agreements, extensions, or modifications to the lease agreements. Again, these are not things we have control over, even though we are doing everything in our power to find buyers or get buyers to spend more money so we can keep our Fairway members working. To date, 6 stores have been acquired by Village ShopRite, even though they're still doing business. Village acquired the Fairway intellectual property and the name. So there's 5 being operated by Village, plus the production center, as well as 1 being operated by the Conti family. It's Foodway, if memory serves correct, is the new banner on the building in the Georgetown area of Brooklyn. If we were able to save another couple of stores or all of the remaining stores, whether it be through the buyers we've been working with, trying to work with the landlords, or Stop and Shop, that's a great thing. That's our job, and that's what we've been trying to do this entire time since the filing in January, and we're not going to stop doing that until the stores are no longer open for business. At present moment, 1 store that we represent has closed. It was the store in Paramus, New Jersey. It closed on 5/15, and that store was sold to Amazon. At some point, Amazon will take possession of that building after June 30th. And the store in Woodland Park, also in New Jersey, which is not represented by Local 1500, it's represented by UFCW 1262, although we provide the health and welfare and the pension there. That store is going to be closing, I believe, this coming Friday. Is that correct, Paul? So Friday, and that store will also be empty by June 30th. It was also sold to Amazon. There's a lot of mixed opinion as to when the balance of the stores, if they're not sold, will close. We're hoping that none of them close and that we can find operators to take them over with continuity, or if they have to close, they close for a very short period of time, but that the buyer has agreed to take on all of the people and protect all of their working conditions and their rates of pay. So that's the update on Fairway. I should have mentioned this earlier, it's a little out of order, I apologize. But I want to say thank you, congratulations, and good luck to one of our most tenured, I believe our second tenured rank and file executive board member, Eleanor Hammond. Eleanor Hammond has announced her retirement as of 6:30, and she will be resigning from the executive board as well. You know, there's been a Hammond involvement and a Hammond factor in this union for more than 40 years. And although Harry never served as a vice president on the board, Harry acted more like a vice president that worked for the staff throughout his lifetime. And, you know, Eleanor has done an unbelievable job as a rank and file VP for us, always keeping us honest, always being supportive, always trying to make sure that the beliefs and the feelings of the membership are heard, not only by the leadership of this local, but by her brethren on the board. And we love and respect you and appreciate all the time, and we wish you nothing but the best of luck in retirement. And I'll reiterate it because he wants to say it. No matter what, retire all you want, just make sure you bring Tony cannolis in December because it's what he's used to. So thank you, Eleanor, good luck, and God bless you. I also think it's important that we cover some staff realignments. As I said, Rhonda Nelson and Terry Quinones have both announced their retirement, and we've made some changes as it relates to our field staff. So effective immediately, Paul Santarpia is the sole field director. He has been since Terry announced her pending retirement. And at some point in the late summer or early fall, we're gonna go back to a 2 assistant field director system. So in your travels and in your own way, I'm sure you'll congratulate both Jay Scorzelli and Greg Pasquale. They will be the 2 assistant field directors. They will work directly for Paul Santarpia and Joe Waddy. They will both have a number of representatives that report to them, and they will also have some stores that they are responsible for. But this is a system the local used back in the 80s and 90s, so we're gonna try and go back to that again. We're all very excited about the skills and the qualities that both Greg and Jay bring to our staff and our field staff, and the ability to help them not only develop as individuals, but develop as a team. And like I said, that'll start towards the tail end of the summer or the early part of the fall. I just want to comment on one thing that Joe said. Any visitor that comes to the local 1500 building, as he said, you'll be no contact temperature tested, but very similar to any of your employers that are doing that. If you have a temperature of 100 degrees or more, you're not going to be allowed to enter the building. We will temperature test you again 5 minutes later. And if your temperature doesn't get below 100 degrees, we're not going to be able to grant you access to the building, but we can certainly give you the opportunity to speak to somebody via phone so that we can get your situation addressed for you, or we can try to make an appointment for another day when your temperature drops below 100. For our staff, if anybody on our staff tests 100 degrees or more, they're going to be sent home for the day. And it's just to make sure that we don't have any type of a spread or an unforeseen issue in this building. We're a service business, and if our members need to be here and they need to get the service, you can't really do that if we allow COVID to spread wild through our building. At present moment, I can report to you, we had 3 staffers that tested positive for COVID-19, 3 that we know of. For sure, we've had at least 1 or 2 others that tested positive for antibodies, but never really showed any symptoms or had very mild symptoms while we were closed or working part-time. So I think we've been pretty lucky if you think about the number of people that we're exposed to and the type of business that we're in. But I am proud to report, as Joe said, we're back open 110%. We've been open partially since the very early part of April. And slowly but surely, we've been increasing back to 8 to 5, Monday to Friday, and we're here 40 hours a week minimum for our office staff, and the execs are typically here before 8 and after 5. So if we can be of any help to you, or we have questions that need to be answered, we're here for you. Look, I'm gonna close my section with a pretty, I guess it's a pretty important statement to make, but it's a pretty simple one. You know, labor unions have always been in support of equality, justice, and equal treatment, whether it's based on race, whether it's based on tenure, whether it's based on sexual orientation or religion, poverty level. You know, any and everything that can be used to separate one human being from another is not something that labor has ever tolerated. You know, this union's moniker for a long time was one union, one voice, or many faces, one voice. And, you know, all of those things are true. And it's always been a standard of labor to ensure that no one is treated differently or no one is abused. You know, the unfortunate incident and the murder of George Floyd is something that's impacted not only our membership, but certainly this country and probably around the world. You're seeing people that ordinarily would not get involved in moral conversations and political conversations getting involved. And that's good, because it's about time. And hopefully the right people will sit down and find the right solutions so that no one is ever abused in this country again, regardless of their skin color, their wealth, their religion, their sexual orientation, or anything that makes them a little bit different than the person sitting next to them. This is a country based on equality. People came here for equality. To not have it is preposterous. So we are 150% in favor of the right things happening with the right people at the right tables so that real conversation can happen, and not rhetoric and not explosive bullshit, because that's what's most of what's going on. But no, we are not in support of violence, and we don't want innocent people to be harmed in any way, shape, or form. UFCW stores were destroyed across the country in some of the rioting, and that's a pretty difficult thing for those people who work there. But God willing, this situation will become more peaceful and a very positive long-term resolution with real results will come of it. So that's really the only statement I want to make. It's a really difficult time in our country right now, and the time has come for change. And God willing, and I know most people don't like it when I get political, but God willing, a change will come in the White House in November, which will help this country start to heal. So thank you very much. I appreciate your time. I'm going to turn it back over to Joe.
One thing I did not mention earlier on, and you know, we've had a difficult time with COVID-19, and Rob mentioned that we had 3 staffers that contracted it, and thankfully they've all recovered and a long time ago and have been back 100%. However, we did have 9 members pass away due to coronavirus this year, and you know, we just want to thank. Obviously we want to remember them, and our hearts go out to their families. But we also want to thank all of you for being on the front lines and facing this pandemic head on. You've heard us say it, and I'll say it again. You are truly heroes for the bravery that you've displayed over the past few months. And Rob has said it, you know, you've always been essential to us, and we just hope that the world realizes just what important employees you are to us and to them and to our community. So thank you again, and just, you know, we're trying to respect the privacy of the families, but just try and remember the 9 members that we have that passed away. And if any of you have any family members that passed away, please accept our condolences. ShopRite, Mannix Glass, and SRS, I just wanted to make an announcement that it looks like we are about to agree on a 1-year extension. I know some of you out there have had some questions with regard to the expiration of your contracts, which is coming up in July and August respectively. But the companies have agreed in principle to a 1-year extension, and we're looking to have a wage increase built in there, so it's not just an extension for just to say we have an extension. You know, we've had some difficulties trying to negotiate this year. Clearly, we couldn't even meet. The state was shut down. So we will get back to you as soon as we have signatures on the extensions, and the reps will be reaching out to all of you Glass, Mannix, and SRS members with the specifics, okay? So thank you for your patience and hang in there. Before I close, the only other thing I had was we have had over $2 million in COVID-related claims so far to our medical fund. So we're going to, obviously our fund is there to help people, and that's the purpose of it, and we're going to continue to monitor it. And it's difficult because with a pandemic or a health crisis, typically it means that our welfare fund, which is in very good shape, takes hits every now and then. So we just wanted to mention that to you.
Just don't want to make a comment on that. Just be aware, some labor unions have been advised to take positions that this is a workman's compensation issue. And although we're 100% in support of any and all legislation, making COVID a workers' compensation issue so that it would fall into the similar category as like the Zadroga Act did for the 9/11 victims and the 9/11 workers, it's very important to us that surviving families get the benefits, and it's very important to us that in any way, shape, or form it can be viewed and is ruled as a work-related death. There is a separate and I guess more difficult issue as it relates to that. And to Joe's point, we've spent over $2 million on COVID claims already. Claims are typically 6 to 7 weeks between the time that they happen and the time they actually get to us to get paid. So we anticipate probably some $4 to $5 million of additional claims coming in that are just COVID related. Some attorneys are actually advising rejecting those claims and what they call pending them, and trying to send those claims through workman's compensation. Look, on behalf of Tony, who's still the plan manager of the welfare fund, and on behalf of the labor union team here, there is absolutely no way on God's green earth we are going to reject any claims under COVID for any reason to try to shift the cost over to the workman's compensation board. I'm not saying that we're going to waive our right to potentially file suit after and try to recoup some of the money the welfare fund expends, but to leave a member who just survived, or a member's family that just survived the impact COVID can have, to get pounded with bills and collection notices, and to try to have you fight with the facility that potentially worked to save your life and say, no, it's workers' compensation related. We could be 6 or 8 months away from any type of agreement on that. And to stick you in that situation after what you've been exposed to, after what you've already survived, is ludicrous. And it's absolutely not going to happen. So at the end of the day, the welfare fund may take a bigger financial hit than another welfare fund, but you've been through enough. We're not going to stick you with this as well. So, thank you.
Okay, ready for Q&A?
Yeah, let's do
All
it.
right. Got 4 questions here. I don't know. Sorry to repeat them.
Yeah, that's fine.
Hazard pay.
Why was hazard pay not tax exempt? I don't know why hazard pay or any type of pay would be tax exempt. I think the government would want to have something to say with that. They definitely did either a flat rate increase or a percentage increase, and it comes through your paycheck. So it would be an automatic thing if it's listed as pay. I'm not an expert on tax law, but I can tell you that I think a lot of people would have had an issue if any type of hazard pay was tax exempted. I can tell you that we'll talk to our advisors and see if there was some way, or potentially there may be some way that you can claim it as some type of deduction on your taxes. I know that certain legislative bodies are trying to find additional things that you can do, maybe give you a tax credit next year, but I definitely can't answer that question. What about all the money that was owed to the pension from Fairway? Thanks, Dan. Dan Augustine from King Cullen asked that question. Dan, the bottom line is this: when a company goes to bankruptcy, every bill that it's owed gets in line. And secured creditors, believe it or not, are not inclusive of pension funds. Secured creditors are typically bondholders, companies that have, or banks or financial institutions that have lent the company money. Very similar to what happened at A&P. The deal here is that when this company goes by and there is no longer a traditional Fairway, the estate is liquidated, there will be a handful of $1 million left to contribute to the pension fund, but the pension fund is in line with arguably another $100 million worth of creditors that will not get anything. When a company's value is worth less than 1/3 of what its liabilities are, there's no way to claw back at that. As I said, we will get more than likely some $2 million, give or take, all in total. And quite frankly, in a bankruptcy court, that's an achievement. It's a disgrace to the pension fund that we lose more than $65 million. But this is a multi-employer fund that has pluses and minuses. It means that the balance of the employers, of which your union is one of them, that contribute to the pension fund, Everybody else's cost of doing business just went up. So that's what happens. It happened to us with A&P when they lost some $70 million. The third question, is it true Stop and Shop purchased 61 stores this week down south for $900 million? Not that I know of. If anything, it would have been an Ahold USA or whatever the Ahold Delhaize company. It wouldn't be Stop and Shop. The Stop and Shop banner only goes so far, and then it turns into Giant of Landover and Giant of Carlisle to the west in PA. But I have not heard anything. I'm pretty up to date with the industry stuff, but I don't know 110% that happened. If it does, we'll know sooner than later, but I haven't heard anything about it. Any update on efforts to unionize Amazon? That's a pretty bold question. Let's put it this way, Amazon is one of, if not the biggest employer right now in the country. There are efforts to organize a number of warehouses across the country. In Staten Island, there's been members fired for union activity. The RWDSU has been leading the charge at the Amazon warehouse in Staten Island. But currently the only places that we would potentially be looking at would be the Amazon Go stores in New York, which are cashierless, very small. There are a couple in Manhattan, but it is something that's obviously on everyone's radar. It's no different than Walmart. They've expanded beyond the point of being able to be ignored. They want to get into our industry. They want to modify our industry. They want to automate our industry so that unionization won't really be an issue for them. They'll take a traditional market that tended to employ 150 people and try to find a way to operate it with 25 or less. It's what they do best. They're more of a data and technology company than they are a sales company, but they've been able to manipulate the sales data and the buying patterns and find a way to turn it into one of the most unbelievable companies from a financial perspective. To my knowledge, there are no current campaigns outside of what's going on at the Staten Island warehouse that I can report on, but that doesn't mean that there aren't dozens of campaigns that haven't come to light as of yet across the country. Why do I still have to wear a mask but not receive hazard pay? Everyone has to wear a mask now. That's now a mandate and a directive from the state of New York. It's, no shoes, no shirt, no mask, no service. And your employer has a right to require it whether or not there's a mandate. I would tell you that if people stopped wearing masks, I think we'd have a much bigger problem on our hands than we did the first time. But here again, people are politicizing wearing masks or not wearing masks. That's not really a question that I can answer, other than it's effectively a law right now. So you should follow that direction. If you don't, you could be subject, forgive me, to a fine, as well as you could potentially have issues with your coworkers. I've seen enough videos of customers being chased out of buildings for failure to comply. I don't know that you really want to put yourself in that situation. By no means am I undercutting the difficulty that wearing a mask creates, and by no means am I saying that it's easy. I've seen enough negative feedback about what it means and how it feels to wear a mask every day, and I don't envy anybody that does. What I can say is it's better than the alternative. And as you heard Joe say, we've lost 9 members, and we've probably had north of 500 members impacted and sick as a result of COVID. Those people have brought the disease home. They've infected their spouses. They've infected their children. We had one member infect their entire family, 7 people. We had another member contract the disease, bring it home, and unfortunately it cost her husband his life. We had a single mother, 14, with a 14-year-old and a 10-year-old child that lost her life. I can't really say whether or not you should wear a mask, but the alternative can be pretty ugly. So I would encourage everyone to protect themselves and protect your coworkers by wearing a mask. Is King Cullen going to catch up on their contribution to the pension plan? King Cullen never stopped making contributions to the pension plan. No employer stops making contributions. Fairway had a pause in their contributions after they filed the bankruptcy. We went into bankruptcy court with our attorneys and fought for those contributions, what they call pre-petition and post-petition claims. It's monies owed prior to the date they filed bankruptcy and monies owed after the date. And there's a settlement agreement as it relates to that. But King Cullen pays their bills every month on time without question. So I don't know why there's an assumption that they don't because they have paid every bill. Will you consider buying our younger workers, I guess that's supposed to mean buying out younger workers to preserve the pensions for older workers, such as what General Motors did after their 2009 bankruptcy?
Vested.
Younger
Vested.
vested workers, it says beaters, just so you know. Younger vested workers would probably take a major cut, and it would take some liability off the books from former member and now elected official wannabe, Anthony Portisi. Hello, Anthony. There's the correction. So here's the bottom line. There is an issue in our pension fund. Many companies have tried to negotiate new hires out of the defined benefit pension plan, but everything's based on contribution units. And without getting too deep in the weeds on it, when there's a reduction in contribution units or a fast reduction in contribution units over a short period of time, it triggers a partial withdrawal liability. So in many cases, an employer comes to the table and they want to buy out of the pension fund, so they want to write a check for X amount of dollars or agree to make contributions over a 10 or a 20-year period of time quarterly to pay what they owe, and then move all of their members into a defined contribution, a 401k, or an annuity plan. But if you move new hires, and to your point, Anthony, you're going to reduce the number of contribution units that come in from every single one of those employers, whether you buy them out or not. Once you reduce that number beyond 35%, it triggers a partial withdrawal liability. That causes the employers to have to pay a lot of money up front. That being said, our biggest employer, Stop and Shop, would punch out of the pension fund tomorrow if they could and write a check. If they punch out, every one of the other employers are going to want to punch out. If the biggest dog in the room leaves, no one's going to want to stay behind. What that means is that companies are going to look to file, they could file bankruptcy and stick the fund with more unfunded liability, and it would trigger what's called a mass withdrawal. A mass withdrawal takes the number that's owed and double pluses it. So to put it bluntly, and forgive the poor explanation there, if someone owes $100 million in withdrawal liability, a mass withdrawal rate would be somewhere in the $215 to $220 million rate. That puts more pressure and more undue pressure on a prospective employer. So that's a little bit of a tough situation, Anthony. I would think we're more looking towards the hybrid, but until a plan that works long-term can be defined, we're not in a rush to make that decision. So thank you for that. On the subject of Walmart, are there any plans to organize the Walmart supermarket in Levittown? To the best of my knowledge, that supermarket's now there north of 5 years, has not had an impact on either of the two Union supermarkets in the neighborhood. Are we interested in organizing it? 110%. And Bill, give us a call tomorrow and we'll put you in touch with an organizer, because we'd love your help. Asking the question's great. Volunteering to help us organize that store, way better question. So I look forward to your call tomorrow. When can Foodway expect a contract? You have one already, Paul. Your business agent, Juan Guardado, will get in touch with you tomorrow. I'm sure he knows who you are because he helped transition the store, and he's in the back nodding at me now. If he has your number, you're probably about to get a text message. Will ShopRite employers receive hazard pay beyond 6/13? From our perspective, no employer should stop giving hazard pay. We're in the process, and Assistant President, forgive me, Executive Vice President Waddy reported on it earlier, that from our perspective, we're working with all the locals in Region 1, but specifically every day with Local 342 and Local 338 to ensure that every company paying hazard pay continues to do that. As I sit here right now at this table, we had an offer, but that offer came with a few caveats. We are not willing to accept caveats. We want the $2 an hour or the 10% or the dollar, depending on where you work, to continue until there's no hazard. That's the position of the union. The employer may differ on that position, and it may get to a point where it gets beyond ugly conversation and gets a little sticky. If and when that happens, I assure you, we'll be prepared for it. So I don't have an answer, but I would expect that if they got a brain in their head, they extend it beyond 6/13.
Oh, there you got it.
This is her. Nick, the question you just put in is from the woman before?
It's from Joseph.
Okay. Joe Graziano, tell me which King Cullen you work for, and we'll make sure your rep calls you on that question. That's a little specific. I'm sorry, is yours? Okay, Lynn Shields will get a hold of you. Sorry, Joe, that's a little too specific. Cindy, we agree that everyone should get hazard pay until the coronavirus is gone. There's a lot of dispute, there's a lot of disagreement as to when people say the fear is gone. From our perspective, I know I can speak to a number of conversations I've had with Local 342 President Rich Abendolo and Local 338 President John Durso, as well as the Regional Director Dave Young. We feel as long as there's crowd control and limits to the population and plexiglass and masks and legitimate cases of COVID-19, that everyone should receive hazard pay. If there's still a hazard, why wouldn't you get hazard pay? Unfortunately, some of the employers don't see it that way. You know, it was an easier thing for them to do when business was up 40 and 50% and 30% and all the rest of these ridiculous numbers. Now, don't get me wrong, they've taken all of that money and they've given you a share of it. Is it a large share? I don't know. Is your life worth $80 a week? From our perspective, although hazard pay, hero pay, all of it is a great thing, is it really enough to put your life on the line? Is it really a risk? And the irony is, whether or not that's deemed enough, your employers are already starting to look to pare it back. I get it. Everyone's trying to meet their bottom line, but meeting their bottom line while their employees are still at risk in the eyes of a union is pretty selfish and it's pretty foolish. And we're not going to let anybody make any unilateral decisions as it relates to your COVID pay, hazard pay, hero pay, relief pay, because it's all called different shit. But we're going to do everything we can to make sure it stays in place for as long as possible, because that's what our job is. And when and if the time comes that an employer doesn't agree with us and they choose to go in a different direction, if we decide to take them on, I'm presuming that the people on the other end of these questions will be ready to stand next to us and not behind us quietly. You should be standing right next to us yelling just as loud. What, Peter? Oh. Yeah. Pete, you have your rep's number. Jeff Guardado. He'll talk to you about your question. Peter Hoffman, forgive me. Anything else?
No.
What is that one? Okay. Senior Advisor Spielman, anything on your mind?
No, I just want to keep everybody safe, and we're going to do a raffle, I know that much.
From the staff, is there anything, I mean, this is an odd situation, so is there anything we think we've missed, anything that should have been covered that we didn't? Seeing none, hearing none, a couple of thumbs ups. George, just rocking the hot hairstyle, that's it? All right, so we're gonna do a raffle. What? Got a finger up from Tariq.
Betty Ford wants to know, we don't have any plexi. That's
Where's that, Pickwick?
Betty Ford is still in Pickwick, Massapequa?
Massapequa, yes.
Who has it? All right, please get a hold of Betty, apparently plexiglass issues.
All right, Paul, come over here, you're going to help me pick.
Let's see what we can do.
No, turn it here.
sorry.
In regard to the September general membership meeting, it's still to be determined. We have to see what's going on with the state and ordinances out here. At this point, it will be held just like this, Facebook Live. If that changes, we will let you know. Okay? Thank you.
This is,
We're on the raffle already?
Yeah, she actually is.
so that's the first winner.
All right, so we're gonna do 15 raffles. Usually we do 5 in-house, but our staff is ineligible, so no in-house. All 15 are Facebook Live. The jig's kind of up on this one, but the first winner is Adriana Molione for the ShopRite 275. Second winner, Pat Donovan, King Cullen 26. There's something about Bridgehampton. You guys winning makes Lynn Shields so happy, because that just means she gets to drive out to you and deliver. So congratulations, Pat. Oh, while you're out there, Lynn, Linda Milton from King Cullen, Bridgehampton, another winner. Nothing like two drop-offs in the same store. Craig O'Connor, Stop and Shop 543. If your name is announced, please check back in, or we may re-raffle your cards.
Don't give it up.
Our staff is so trained, they're clearing their own 20 chairs because they don't even have the patience to wait for the raffle. I should have Tariq reverse it so you can see the idiocy going on behind the camera. Okay. Phyllis DeSisto Graziano, Stop and Shop 512. Congratulations. Joey Zoilo, King Cullen 47, on your way to Bridge. You can stop in Hampton Bays. Lauren Geyer, King Cullen 33, also on your way to Bridge. Zumba in the parking lot with Joe Zoilo. I've heard, I saw some videos, Joey. Sketchy, bro. Sketchy. Albert Fredericks, Stop and Shop 564. Deborah Tellerico, Stop and Shop 543.
How many, Joe?
2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more.
Nicole Lopez, Stop and Shop 2589. Aileen Hummel, Pickwick 24. Yeah, I'm gonna apologize now. Isis Mankarius, King Cullen 50.
It's the way they wrote it here, that's what it is.
I cannot pronounce it. I apologize if I badly I just butchered your name.
Is she in bakery license?
Anthony Lastumbo, Stop and Shop 561. Marlena Knopf, hey Marley, haven't seen you in a bit. King Cullen 14. Uno más?
Or not?
That's it.
Last but not least, Gail Phillips, Stop and Shop Seaford. Listen, I want to thank everybody. This was definitely a different.
Yeah.
You know you're on a microphone,
Oh,
right,
sorry.
El Presidente? All right, so I apologize. This is definitely somewhat outside the box for us, doing 100% Facebook Live. We can't really say beyond a reasonable doubt yet what we're going to do for the September meeting. We're gonna have to leave that open until we get closer and determine whether or not it's safe to bring people together and to do a meeting that won't cause anybody any undue stress or drama. Hopefully, we get a little bit better as we do this, and maybe we don't have any of the technological issues doing just a Facebook Live. But we did look into doing a few other things, and they just weren't cost efficient for us. This is a process we're very comfortable with, and we'd like to continue it if we can. So, if you have anything that we didn't get to, please feel free to post the questions on the site. On the
Facebook.
Yeah, post it on Facebook, or get a hold of your rep and we'll get back to you within 24 hours. So, good luck to everybody. God bless you, and I hope you're all happy and healthy. And we'll talk to you in September, if not before. Okay, thanks. Have a good night.